Your body has a second brain, and it quietly controls your emotions. You think your thoughts come only from your brain, but inside your body, another nervous system is constantly influencing your fear, your stress, and even your decisions. The terrifying part is that your second nervous system can trigger emotions before your conscious mind understands why. You already know you have a brain. You know it sits inside your skull, processes information, generates thought, controls movement. What almost no one outside of neuroscience knows is that you have a second neural system, one that has its own neurons, its own reflexes, its own signaling chemistry, and its own capacity to operate entirely independently of the brain in your head. It is located in your gut. The enteric nervous system, a vast, dense network of approximately 500 million neurons lining the walls of your gastrointestinal tract from esophagus to colon, is so neurologically complex, so functionally autonomous, that researchers who study it have given it a name that is not a metaphor. They call it the second brain, not because it thinks the way your cortex thinks, but because it processes, regulates, adapts, and responds with a sophistication that no other organ in the body, outside the brain itself, comes close to matching. To put that neuron count in perspective, 500 million neurons is more than the entire spinal cord contains, more than the peripheral nervous system. The gut contains more neurons than any structure in the body, outside the cerebral cortex. It produces more than 30 distinct neurotransmitters, the same chemical messengers that regulate mood, attention, and cognition in the brain. 95% of the body's entire serotonin supply is produced not in the brain, but in the gut. The chemical most associated with well-being, emotional regulation, and the prevention of depression is manufactured, stored, and largely regulated by your digestive system. Dr. Michael Gershon at Columbia University, who coined the term second brain in his landmark 1998 book, spent decades establishing that the enteric nervous system is not simply a relay station for signals from the brain above. It is an autonomous processing center. Cut the vagus nerve, the primary communication highway between gut and brain, and the enteric nervous system continues to function. It continues to move food, regulate digestion, respond to infection, and modulate its own chemical environment. It does not need the brain. The brain increasingly appears to need it. For most of medical history, the relationship between gut and brain was understood as one-directional. The brain sent signals down to the gut, telling it what to do. The gut obeyed. This model was wrong in a fundamental way that scientists are still mapping the full consequences of. The vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in the body, running from the brainstem through the chest and into the abdomen, carries information in both directions. But when researchers actually counted the nerve fibers and measured the traffic, they found something that upended the old model entirely. Approximately 80 to 90% of the signals traveling the vagus nerve go not from brain to gut, but from gut to brain. The communication is overwhelmingly bottom-up. The gut is not receiving instructions from above. It is sending a continuous stream of information upward, and the brain is, in large part, responding. This gut-to-brain signaling shapes some of the most fundamental aspects of your psychological experience. A 2015 study published in Psychopharmacology found that participants who took a prebiotic supplement, feeding the beneficial bacteria in their gut, showed measurably reduced cortisol responses to stress and paid less attention to negative stimuli compared to controls. Their gut microbiome had shifted. Their psychological stress response had shifted with it. The mechanism involves what researchers call the gut-brain axis, a bidirectional communication network involving the vagus nerve, the enteric nervous system, the immune system, and the endocrine system. The gut bacteria that live within this system, approximately 38 trillion microorganisms, outnumbering your own body's cells, are not passive passengers. They produce neuroactive compounds, regulate inflammatory signals, modulate immune responses, and directly influence the production of neurotransmitters including serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter that reduces anxiety and promotes calm. Dr. John Cryan at University College Cork, one of the world's leading researchers on the gut-brain axis, describes the microbiome as a virtual organ whose functional output is as significant as any gland or tissue in the body. What you eat does not just affect your digestion, it affects your mood, your stress resilience, your cognitive clarity, and your vulnerability to psychiatric conditions through pathways that bypass conscious awareness entirely and operate continuously every hour of every day. The phrase gut feeling is one of the oldest in the English language. What neuroscience has established is that this phrase is not metaphor. It is anatomy, the gut feeling you experience before a decision, the unease, the excitement, the sense that something is wrong before you can articulate why, is a real signal generated by a real neural system carrying genuine information that your conscious brain has not yet processed. The enteric nervous system monitors the body's internal environment with extraordinary sensitivity. It detects chemical changes, bacterial signals, inflammatory markers, and physiological states and relays that information upward through the vagus nerve continuously. Much of this signal reaches the brain not as a thought, but as a felt sense, a bodily knowing that precedes and often outpaces conscious analysis. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio at the University of Southern California developed what he calls the somatic marker hypothesis. The idea that the body generates emotional signals that mark options in decision-making as good or bad before conscious deliberation occurs. These somatic markers are not interruptions of rational thinking. They are, Damasio argues, based on decades of research with patients who had lost access to these bodily signals due to brain damage, essential inputs into rational decision-making. His patients with damaged emotional bodily feedback pathways did not become more rational. They became catastrophically indecisive, unable to navigate even simple choices because the body's precognitive evaluation system had gone silent. The gut is a primary source of these somatic markers. The nausea before a decision you know is wrong, the physical lightness when something aligns with your values, the constriction in your chest in the presence of someone who has harmed you, even when your conscious mind is telling a more accommodating story. These are not irrational. They are data, processed by a neural system with 500 million neurons and hundreds of millions of years of evolutionary refinement delivered to your awareness before your prefrontal cortex has finished its analysis. Research on interoception, the brain's capacity to perceive internal body signals, shows that people with higher interoceptive sensitivity make better decisions under uncertainty, have stronger emotional regulation, and show greater resilience under stress. The ability to accurately read your own body's signals is not a personality trait. It is a trainable skill, one that connects you to the second brain's continuous stream of information about your environment, your relationships, and your own well-being. Understanding that you have a second nervous system running parallel to the one in your skull changes the practical question of how to take care of your mind. Mental health is not located only in the brain. It is distributed across the gut, the microbiome, the vagus nerve, and the continuous chemical conversation between them. What you do to your gut, you do to your psychology. The most direct intervention is the one with the strongest evidence base: diet as a mental health tool. A landmark 2017 randomized controlled trial, the SMILES trial, led by Dr. Felice Jacka at Deakin University, assigned participants with major depression to either a dietary intervention based on a Mediterranean-style diet or social support as a control. After 12 weeks, 32% of the dietary intervention group achieved remission from depression compared to 8% in the social support group. Food had outperformed social connection as a depression treatment. Not because social connection doesn't matter, but because the gut's role in mood regulation is that fundamental. The dietary pattern that the research most consistently supports for gut-brain health involves high diversity of plant-based fiber, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria, fermented foods including yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi, which directly introduce beneficial microorganisms, and reduction of ultra-processed foods, which research by Dr. Tim Spector at King's College London consistently associates with reduced microbiome diversity and elevated inflammatory markers that reach the brain. The second intervention targets the vagus nerve directly. Vagal tone, the baseline activity level of the vagus nerve, is strongly associated with emotional regulation, stress resilience, and the quality of gut-brain communication. Higher vagal tone predicts better recovery from stress, stronger social functioning, and reduced inflammatory response. And vagal tone is trainable. The most evidence-backed methods for increasing vagal tone include slow, diaphragmatic breathing, specifically exhales longer than inhales, which directly stimulates vagal activity. Cold water exposure to the face or neck activates the diving reflex, producing immediate vagal stimulation. Humming, chanting, and singing engage the vagal branches that innervate the throat and larynx. These are not wellness trends. They are direct interventions into the nervous system that connects your gut to your brain. The third and most integrative practice is developing interoceptive awareness, the habit of regularly and deliberately attending to bodily signals before cognitive override occurs. This means pausing before decisions to notice what the body is communicating. It means treating physical unease in specific situations as information rather than noise. It means building the capacity through practices like body scan meditation and mindful movement to hear the second brain signals clearly enough to factor them into how you live. You have been making decisions, forming relationships, navigating stress, and constructing your emotional life with one brain when you have two. The second one has been running continuously, processing your world, generating signals, shaping your mood and your choices and your health, largely without your knowledge or participation. Now you know it exists. The question is what you do with that knowledge. So the next time your body reacts before your mind, remember something disturbing. Your brain may not be the only thing controlling your life.